Good morning. Today we look at Jeremiah 40 through 42. And as chapter 39 had ended, Jeremiah was in the custody of Gedaliah. He was a person who wasn't a member of the royal family, but he had evidently had some influence and some power because King Nebuchadnezzar had put Jeremiah in custody of this person when he released him from his bonds. And then Nebuchadnezzar's guard released in chapter 40 released Jeremiah from the protective custody, or whatever we want to call it, from this Gedaliah, and so he's free. He's no longer a captive, a prisoner of any sort, because this king of Babylon and his guards had set him free. And the captain of the guard takes Jeremiah away, and the captain. And this is interesting. I think the captain of the guard says to Jeremiah, "The Lord your God threatened this place with disaster, and now the Lord has brought it about." I mean, this foreigner is evidently aware of the prophecies that Jeremiah has brought, and he says, "No, the Lord has carried them out." The king, the Lord your God, used King Nebuchadnezzar, my superior, my commander, to bring about this disaster. The Lord has brought it about and done all he said, because you sinned against the Lord. And this is exactly what the word of the prophet was. Because you have sinned, this is what the Lord will do. And we're so fortunate that God doesn't say that, because you sinned, this is da-di-da-di-da. I mean, but, today God says, because you sinned and repented and asked for forgiveness, I grant it. I mean, quite a difference. So therefore this catastrophe had come upon Judah. And I have released you from the fetters on your hands. If you want to come to Babylon, you're welcome to come along to Babylon, and you will be respected. I'll take good care of you. But if you don't want to come to Babylon, you may stay here with the remnant that will be left. I mean, so Jeremiah has a choice: go to Babylon, and or to stay here with this remnant of Israelites. So Jeremiah chooses to stay, and he goes, and this Gedaliah, whom he had been kind of in the protective custody of before he was set free, has now been appointed, the ruler, the king of Judah, by Nebuchadnezzar. And so the leaders and the forces, they take off, and Gedaliah and the Israelites, this remnant remains. And the word then comes to Jeremiah, and it says, do not be afraid to serve these Chaldeans. Stay in this land, serve the king of Babylon, and it will go well with you. And so it's, the word to stay here. And then there's an uprising. Ishmael, who is, he says, this Ishmael is plotting against Gedaliah, and someone of Johanan comes to Gedaliah and says, "Let me go and put Ishmael to death. You'll kill him, because he is plotting against you." And Gedaliah has a good heart, and he says, "No, this isn't going to happen. Why should he take your life so that all the, and don't do such a thing. You're telling a lie." So Gedaliah didn't believe the truth about Ishmael. And sure enough, in chapter 41, Ishmael comes with 10 men to Gedaliah, and they kill Gedaliah and his cabinet, and they throw him into a cistern, and then 80 men come on the day after Gedaliah has been murdered of it. It says before anyone knew of it. So they did it in secret. They did it out of the sight of everybody else. But these 80 men arrive with their beards shaved, their tours, and so they're some sort of a religious sect or whatever. And Ishmael and his men kill 70 of these. They spare 10 because they say we have treasures, stored up, out in the fields. So he let them live. But the others were killed and thrown into this cistern with Gedaliah and those other rulers. And, it's just, the subterfuge. In so many ways, it's how much different is it than today? I mean, we still have these, political rivalries. We still have so much stuff going on. And I think, back in the days of in the Prohibition in the 20s and the 30s, and the everything that was going on, with rival gangs and with the people against the United States. It just, but there are always disgruntled people. But hopefully most of us have learned to act in a much more civil manner. And rather than just, we just don't go out and kill everybody we don't like. We still have wars, and this is kind of that aspect of things too. Why can't we respect others and respect others' lives and figure out a way to get along in spite of our differences? But anyway, this Ishmael kills all of these people, and then this Johanan, who had wanted to go out and take Ishmael out so that Gedaliah would be safe, raises an army, and they go against Ishmael and his troops, and they bring the captives, the Israelites back, as Ishmael had been going to lead them out, but Ishmael and 8 men escaped. So, there's that hint of what may happen in the future, and or may not. But so this Johanan, the son of Kareth, and the leaders were there, and they set out and they stopped the people that were intending to go to Egypt because of everything that had been going on. And then the commanders and everybody approached Jeremiah in chapter 42, and it's, be good enough to listen to us and pray to the Lord your God for us and for this remnant, that we may know God's will for us. Pray to God and ask God, what is it that we, your people, should do? Let the Lord your God show us where we should go and what we should do. Ask God what we should do. And Jeremiah says, I will pray to God and I will ask God on your behalf. And 10 days later, the word comes. And when we get to verse 7, after the end of 10 days, the word came to Jeremiah. And here, 10 days. Jeremiah didn't get an answer from God right away. God wasn't right there and said, boom, here it is. But, they waited 10 days. And again, to me, this is a reminder for us that, God hears our prayers, and they don't always get answered right away. Sometimes the answer is no, but God hears our prayers. And, and it's a reminder too that, God is forever. And 10 days for God really probably isn't a very long time. But for the people, I'm sure it was a long wait. But the word comes, and the word is, do not flee to Egypt. Stay here where you are. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon. He says in verse 11, for I am with you to save you and rescue you from his hand. I will grant you mercy, and he will have mercy and return you to your native soil. But if you say, we will not live in this land, and go, then hear the word of the Lord. You know, if you don't listen to God and stay here, if you go to Egypt, if you're determined to enter Egypt, then the sword you fear will overtake you in the land of Egypt. You know, so they asked for God's advice. They asked Jeremiah for God's, not advice, but his will for them, his direction for them. And they find out what it is. And verse 21, Jeremiah says, "See, I've told you today, but you have not obeyed the Lord your God in anything he sent me to tell you. But be well aware that you will die by the sword if you go to Egypt." You know, so listen to the word of God. Do what God says to you. This is the word from God to the Israelites. You know, this is God's will for the Israelites. And it's for good, not for harm. God says, do what I request and you will thrive. And again, it's that promise from God to this remnant of the people of Israel.